Have you ever heard that phrase, fake it till you make it? Yeah, most of us know that when you fake it, you don't really get to where you want to be. But what do you do for real so that you can actually make it? Hello everyone, my name is Meridian. Today's video is going to be step number 3 of 67, and this is going to be on the topic of humility. So for this topic of humility, for the most part, most people know that humbleness is a virtue. It is something that we need in order to not be cocky or offensive or in over our heads as far as our skill levels go, but it's very hard to evaluate what that actually means in action. So, you know, for many people, you kind of know it's like you put out your work out there and then you receive compliments. Humbleness is not denying that, oh, it's actually not that good of an essay or that good of a drawing or that good of a song that you put out or whatever it is that you're putting your work out there for, or anything like that. Oh, it's just not that good. That is not humility. Oftentimes it's just downplaying so that you can either receive more compliments or because you legitimately don't feel that it's as good as somebody else's because you're having insecurity issues. There's a lot of different factors that play into the way that we react in our outward humility. But in the end, our outward humility is not what really matters as far as how humility is supposed to function in us actually becoming successful. There are people who downplay their skills but are very successful, but there's a lot of people who downplay their skills and they do actually suck. Then there's a lot of people who brag and then they suck. And then there's a lot of people who brag but they actually get places. So if outward humility is not what dictates whether or not you are successful, what does? So let's talk about inward humility. Inward humility is humility in action. So let's say for the past 2 steps, we talked about awareness and we talked about having that evolutionary stable strategy. With the evolutionary stable strategy, you have to be experimenting a lot, and with the first step you need to be aware of what you should be experimenting on. Humility comes into the part where you figure out where to find that information from. You need to be aware of what it is you need to learn in order to get to the next step in whatever it is you are trying to get your goals for, whether it's a health related goal, an income related goal, a relationship goal, or an overall happiness / fulfillment activity or goal. And with humility, it helps you to figure out that, like, you know, humility in like the base of everything is the ability to say that you don't know everything. And not just say that, but act that way. Actions that reflect whether or not you are a humble person is in the learning aspect. So here we go with the awareness part and saying that we have to learn something. So it's like, you know, you can say that you don't know everything and try to go towards success, but humbleness actually comes in whether or not you're actually actively learning. You're actively trying to be aware of the next step to help you get to, you know, the next level in your skill set or goal or journey point in your journey. And so you can break down humility in 4 different ways. So let's say mentors is number 1. Number 2 is reading or researching of any other kind. Number 3 is actually researching like competitors specifically. And then number 4 is about how much money you spend on learning. Okay, so let's talk about a general sense of humility, just for an example before I delve into each of these 4 facets of actions that actually dictate whether or not you're a humble person. So let's take me, for example, as someone you might look up to. Not that I want to be put on a pedestal, and so there's my outward humility. I don't want to be bragging all the time. I used to be that person, and boy was it awfully embarrassing whenever I didn't actually accomplish what I was set out to say that I was doing when I was like super cocky. But there are a lot of people who do ask me for advice on Instagram, since I have grown my Instagram at a decently quickly rate. And so, you know, there are people who ask me how to grow an Instagram or how to start a kawaii fashion business or something like that. There are many people who ask me for advice And I have favorite people who ask me for advice because they actually do what I say. And that makes me really happy because you're not just asking me and then wasting the advice that I gave to you. A lot of the times, so there's a few favorite people. It's like, you know, if they want to learn how to grow their Instagram, I talk about being genuine online. I talk about sharing your story. If you want to have more interaction with real people on your social media, and I talk about, you know, different ways to tell your story, whether it's through a caption or through formats on your story or through going live or anything like that. And a few people, very few people, have actually like gone through and looked at my content straight up and just like looked at my content and my captions and broke down, okay, so when she tells a story in her caption, how does she open the first line? How does she journey through, you know, a piquing, interesting problem, and then a working solution, and then a call to action for the audience to think about because of the story. And then so some of those people have been able to ask about that / figure it out and actually put that in their own Instagram captions, and it makes me so happy to see that they're doing that. And they get so much engaging comments saying that they talk about things that are very helpful to their audience, and that their audience says that it's like, oh, every time I read one of your posts, it helps me figure out something in my own life, and that's very wholesome, and it's like really good. Because then whatever they're learning from me, they're actually able to help more people that don't even follow me, and that makes me very happy. Another way or version of it is like maybe some of the posts that I do, or some of the way that I do my layout on Instagram, or even the way that I have structured my Instagram bio, for example. They have modeled the template for that. Like, what do I put in the first sentence versus the second sentence versus the third sentence? You know, whether it's a skill, whether it's something you're doing for the audience, or whether it's a short, you know, whatever it is that, you know, the format in there. They don't copy it, but they model the structure for it. And that is what I want people to do, is I want people to model the structure that actually works and then tweak it so that it's their thing, their story, their description, and they just use the model because that's what I've learned from someone else is a successful model for writing stories or putting something in the Instagram bio or anything like that. And the people who actually go through and ask me for advice and then actually do the thing are humble people. Then there are the other side of people where they come in, they ask for advice, and then they don't do it. Then there's the even worse people as far as the humility score goes. Like, they're just not humble. They come in and ask me for advice, and then in the middle of me telling them what they can be doing to get more engagement. So for example, you can post video instead of photos. And then they say, well, when I post video, I don't get as many views, so I just don't do video anymore. And I'm like, what is your statistic to say that video doesn't work? How many videos have you put out versus photo? Was this video that you tried not filmed well in good lighting so that it just wasn't a good video in general? What are your parameters for saying that video is not a good thing? For me, I know that video views are always going to be a lot better than photo views as far as like people retaining engagement with you. So even if there's not as many likes, there's going to be a lot more minutes watched so that they spend more time with you. Video, when you're running an ad, is going to be less expensive to run a video ad versus an image still ad. And I use these statistics based on not only my own experience, but I am in marketing classes and I have a lot of classmates and have a lot of my teachers who say the same thing and give statistics on video being better. So for someone to be asking me for advice, asking for how to increase engagement on their Instagram, and just straight up saying like, oh, I tried video once and it didn't work for me. Do you have anything else or like other advice? That's very like offensive. Not that I was angry or like offended, but it's like, you are asking someone who you look up to for advice and negating their advice. So that's the opposite of humble. You can come in and say like, it's like, oh, I don't know how to grow an Instagram, but I see that you know how to do that and I would like to learn from you. And that's like your humble opening sentence by saying that you want to learn from someone. And then after I give advice and then you say that, oh, that doesn't work for me, can you give me something else? That doesn't tell me that you want to learn from me. That tells me that you just want to find some magic answer that doesn't exist. Okay, so for example, so let's go through the 4 things. Mentorship, reading / researching, and then researching specifically competitors, and then money being spent towards your goals. So what are your goals? We have been talking about this for the last few days. We can center it around the 4 pillars, which are health, income, relationships, and overall happiness. And so try to focus on a specific goal, because if you try to focus on too many goals at once, you're not going to be able to manage everything. You can do anything you put your mind and you set it to, but you cannot do everything. It's impossible to do that, especially with today's day and age and information working and changing so fast. So just focus on at least one thing that is very important to you that you want to learn in, and think about how to take humility in action so that you can get to the next step for your goals. So when you think about mentorship for me has been something that has dramatically changed my entire life. I have been working on my financial goals for a very long time. I've been wanting to be a millionaire since I was in high school, and it was from then, so I graduated high school in 2013, dreaming about having my own fashion line until literally 2017. That is 4 years of me thinking that I'm on this awesome path of entrepreneurship and experimenting and doing all these cool things that nobody knows about, and thinking that I'm the top of the world because everyone's just going to college and being sheeple. But I wasn't actually learning from anybody at the time. I was just trying to learn from my own mistakes, or trying to learn from random YouTube. Like when you want to learn about business and like $1 million income, it's not just going to be on YouTube. You know, like if you want to learn something simple, like how to do makeup, or like a simple thing on makeup, or like how to fix something on your computer real quick that like your audio went out, or like, you want to see a tutorial on how to use this editor in Photoshop or something. Like all these things are out there, but something as big and complicated as like wanting to be a millionaire, or something as complicated as wanting to lose weight or gain weight depending on your body type and your allergies and your conditions, that's going to be complicated. So it's like you have to evaluate the kinds of things that you want to learn, and figure out whether or not you need a mentor for this. Because if you want to get good at whatever it is that you want to do, so for example, I want to be a millionaire before I turn 25. I'm like coming on my 25th year already almost, and I'm not a millionaire yet. So obviously it wasn't until 2017, late 2017 by the way, it was like November 2017, so it's like 2018, and now it's the beginning of 2019, that I've actually been actively learning from someone who is years, like freaking light years ahead of me in the game. I've been learning from entrepreneurs who are millionaires, who have a lot of students, who have become to 6 figures to millionaires, and it's not just one teacher. I have several mentors and teachers as far as who I'm learning from on how to bring my business to the next level. It is the exact reason why Yumelixir is my 12th business, and it hasn't been the 12th failure. All my 11 prior have been failures because I thought I knew everything. Even though in my head and on like my outside self, it's like, oh yeah, I don't know everything, obviously, but I wasn't acting that way. I wasn't understanding that because I don't know everything, I should be looking for that answer. And so when I came across someone who recommended me to go listen to Tai Lopez or Grant Cardone or Russell Brunson, my 3 favorites. I have a lot of other people that I like to learn from as well, but those are my 3 favorites. That is literally what dramatically changed my life and my understanding of marketing as a whole. It's also one of the reasons why I'm doing this 67 steps, is because I believe that this like foundation for success and the habits that come with it have been extremely essential and very key for me to actually being able to achieve my goals and not give up and like not have any kind of faltering or disbelief, is because I've been trying my best to get all of these 67 principles of habits grounded into myself. I'm not perfect, obviously. I go through these 67 steps over and over again. This is my 3rd time going through it, and this time I'm vlogging about it, so hopefully I can share it with people. But how humble are you as far as finding mentors? In your health, are you consulting your doctor? And not only your doctor, are you consulting other people who have either lost weight, gained weight, hit a % body fat ratio, hit a amount of water drinking every day? Like, what is your health goal? Is it a skincare goal? Is it gonna be a weight goal? Is it gonna be a muscle to fat ratio goal? Is it going to be a stamina goal? Is it gonna be an athletic health goal? Is it like, what is your health goal? Maybe it's longer, healthier hair. Maybe it's dewier skin or drier skin. I don't know, maybe you're oily. So it's like, what are your health goals? And are you looking for people who have been on the same journey as you? For a lot of people, for us going to YouTube, we're trying to complicate things too much. For example, if you go and you're trying to look for skincare and you're watching like this YouTuber that has like 1 million subscribers or something, they're a great mentor, except maybe they have oily skin and you have dry skin. So what you take advice from them is not going to work out for you. Are you aware of who your mentors are? Are you aware of who you're learning from? Are you aware of being active about finding people who can teach you in the direction that you want to go? If you are trying to become a millionaire, are you going to be taking advice from your poor friends? Or if you're going to lose weight, are you going to take advice from someone who has a lot of weight on them and they don't eat right? Are you going to be, if you want a relationship advice, are you asking relationship advice from your friend who is on and off dating all the time and never had a stable relationship? If you have a goal for like drawing or whatever, are you taking critique to heart when they're not someone who's accomplished anything that has substance or value? Think about these kinds of things and think about the mentors that you look for. And when you think about mentors, don't just think about people who are like a year or two ahead of you. Think of mentors as people who are 5, 10, 20, maybe even more years ahead of you, and learn from those people as the peak and the peak people of who you're learning from. All of the people who are slightly ahead of you, you can take their advice, but also compare it to people who are 20 years ahead of them and yourself, because then you can really evaluate whether or not the direction and experiment that they might be taking is the correct one. When you look at, so the second one is reading/researching. So this can be related to your own self-research. So you have mentors, of course, but not all the time is it that everyone has the opportunity to be around said mentors that are 20 years ahead of you, whether it's a superstar piano player or a guitarist or millionaire people in business or whatever it is your goal is. You might not always be around them, but you can be consuming their content or something like that. Reading is one of the best ways to get more of that content. So for example, if you're looking at biographies of athletes like Michael Jordan or Olympic athletes or other superstar players, and you want to have a athletic goal or something like that, you can read their biographies. You can see who they got for coaches. You can see their actions. You can see their mistakes. You can see their biggest regrets. Their biographies will detail more of that. That's a great way to do that. You can even read summaries of biographies if you can't sit there and read all the time. Audiobooks also exist as a format for reading. You can see Reddits where people go live and do the Ask Me Anythings. You scour those and you use it for learning rather than for gossip. Another mode of research other than just reading is seeing their other content. Why don't you watch interviews of people who regularly interview famous people, so that you can see what kind of questions that they ask that maybe you never even thought to ask. And then don't look for the gossipy kind of interviews. Look at the interviews for people who are actually trying to learn something and expose information to help the people in their audience rather than just stir up gossip, because that doesn't help anybody. It doesn't actually help you learn anything. It's just dramatic, and makes you outraged, or it makes you feels good, or it makes you have a certain emotional sway, but you don't learn anything. So you think about research and reading in that kind of a way. Now for C, which is researching competitors, for me in business, they can be competitors. My competitors are also my friends. If you are an athlete, maybe your competitors are your teammates. Not that you're competing against them and that you want to beat them and just be better than them, but rather you look at your peers. You have to look at a peer group around you of people who are trying to do the same thing that you're doing. It might not be the same exact thing, but maybe someone wants to just get better at makeup. Someone wants to get better at drawing. Someone wants to get better at a good, healthy relationship with their significant other. Things like that. You have to have a peer group of people that you can learn from and get advice from, and because these are people that you will be able to be around more often than, for example, mentors, people you look up to for hope and inspiration for the years and years and years ahead of yourself. Excuse me. So when you think about you're researching your competitors or your peers in, you know, the peer group of whatever it is you're trying to do, whether your goals are health, income, relationships, or happiness / fulfillment overall. Are you constantly, for example, if you're having relationship issues, are you going to your friends who have an amazing relationship and asking them for advice on how to sort out your feelings? Is it the fact that maybe your significant other is insensitive to your feelings, or are you being too sensitive? Or maybe it's just a matter that can be easily solved if you just got rid of the problem like this, and then it wouldn't even be a problem anymore. Like, you have to go to other people to figure out your problems. You can't just be like, oh, it's our problem, we're gonna figure it out ourselves. Yeah, you can do that, and you can continue to be miserable because most people don't actually do the evolutionary stable strategy, where they actually try to, you know, experiment things and then take the time to figure out whether or not things are working and then changing it. Most people just do the things that they do out of habit, and then things just get worse and worse and worse, and you don't actually figure anything out, and you're just being private because and saying that, oh, it's our problem and we're gonna figure it out, just because you're afraid to be talking about your vulnerabilities and your problems. So that's not being humble at all. That's being cocky and being prideful that you have it all figured out and that you think you're going to figure out all the answers by yourself. It's not true. When you went to school and you learned math, you learned from a teacher. When you go and you join the soccer team, you learn from a coach. When you go and you learn piano, you often have a piano teacher. If you started to draw, you had inspiration that you wanted to draw from. Oftentimes when you're 3, 4, maybe even up to 12 years old like I was tracing. And so learning how to do my makeup even. I have modeled this makeup off of someone else in order to gain makeup skill. You did not invent whatever it is that you are doing now. You have learned from somewhere, from someone, in any kind of facet or capacity. Even if most of the practice was yourself, you learn from the internet, you learn from YouTube, you learn from people around you. Whatever it is, you are learning. And so you cannot just say that you're just going to figure it out yourself if you really want to make super awesome progress, you know? So you think about it, you know, even some athletes, like Michael Jordan had a coach. Einstein had a mentor that he spoke to whenever he wanted to sort out his thoughts. Helen Keller, the person who created a new culture for blind and deaf people, had a mentor to teach her before she was able to enter the world and make change. Martin Luther King had mentors. The President of the United States, ours sucks right now, but it's like in general, the President of the United States has a cabinet of other people that he can confer with, or she in the future can confer with, these kinds of things. And so you have to think about being surrounded by people who give you hope and inspiration, so that, and these are your mentors, people who are so many years ahead of you. You know what your goals and outcomes should be looking like because you're following them. And then because of your researching, and you're researching not only online but also like your competitors and stuff, your peer group, you find out what is going on in the world around you. That's your awareness, and you look at your evolutionary stable strategy and you experiment with it to make sure that you're going in the right direction and that you're looking for help and you're not learning from your own mistakes, because it takes a lot of time. It can take an entire lifetime to learn certain things depending on who you are or what you stumble upon. So you want to be exposing yourself to solutions more than you're exposing yourself to problems. And then the last one, number 4, is money. Oftentimes, money is not just buying a product, it's not just buying information, it's buying back time for your life. In the past 2 years, I have spent almost $40,000 in education for marketing, and it is probably the best $40,000 I've ever spent. I have spent more than that on my college degree for fashion, and I want my fashion degree taken away from me if I can just have that $60,000 back. The amount of stuff that I've learned in the $40,000 that I've spent in marketing has given me the foundation to potentially make $1 million. And I am with mentors, I am with a peer group, I am with all these people and connections, so that even when the classes end, I can still talk to these people, I can still learn from these people, and I have this foundation. And like even in the classes that I'm in now, I'm able to go every week on my Mondays and talk to my classmates and then tell them what's going on in my business and tell them the results and statistics for an ad that I ran, for a campaign that I launched, for something that I was trying to implement in my business that week. And then if the results were not is expected, I go to my peer group and my coaches and I ask them for advice and for feedback on what went wrong and what I can do better, and what I can change, and activities that I can do in order to bring my business to the next level, because I am in a place where I'm asking from qualified individuals for help on my business because I want to become a millionaire, is my example. So for you, are you spending money in order to get that time back? Like the amount of stuff that I've learned in the past year and a half for marketing and business has been exponentially growing my business more than I have in the past 3-4 years of trying to learn by myself and failing 10 businesses at a time. So for you, it's like, are you, like if you want to gain or lose weight, or maybe you want to have healthier skin, or you want to grow hair, are you buying maybe courses or materials or supplies based on recommendations, or like if you did take a course on what your advisors have told you to do or try? Or are you just, buying a 1-month exercise plan and then you're just skipping out the diet and you're skipping out a couple days of exercise and you're just doing the exercises that you like? That is showing lack of humility. That is not humility, because it's like you can just buy it, but if you're not actually using it, then you're not actually doing anything. But it's like, the more money you spend on something, so let's say you buy a year-long program, even though you're not quote-unquote ready for it, and because you spent the entire year, or you spent the money to get an entire year, you're going to be more invested in actually trying to get your money's worth out of it. And so, mentally, physically, you're actually going to be participating more and getting more out of it. So think about that. On a scale of 1 to 10, what is your humility score in mentors that you've surrounded yourself with the amount of research that you do in general, with the amount of peers that you always go to in order to find people to help you, and with the amount of money that you might be spending, or at least the amount of work you're trying to do in order to invest that money into potentially helping you accelerate your goals. Maybe if you want to become a better guitarist or a pianist or a better illustrator, you need better tools, and that's one of those things that you're going to need in order to make it to the next level. If you're not spending any money, then oftentimes you won't be advancing. There was a long time where I was very hell-bent on thinking that makeup and like real makeup from the makeup stores was a scam, and that I should just try to make makeup myself out of like mineral powders and like crayon, that that whole crayon lipstick thing. That was really awful. I spent a lot of time researching how to make cosmetics myself, and in the end I never wanted to look the way I wanted to look. Nothing was ever pigmented, everything was always melting off my face. It was a mess because the packaging was awful, and it was disgusting, and it was like I could have saved so much more money by actually investing my time into working and just buying a palette instead of just like kind of pressing my own powders manually and then never having that color again should it red out, things like that. So yeah, go ahead and answer that question. What is your humility score from 1 to 10 on mentors, on research, on getting advice from your peers, in qualified advice? Remember, you guys, qualified mentors and advice, and the amount of money that you're spending in the correct direction that you want to be going in. Next question. What areas in your life have you not been humble in? And that you can improve on. And so it's related to your humility score from 1 to 10 on each of these 4 things. And if you can figure out what are those places in life where you're actually not being humble, you're just saying that you're humble, but you're not actually putting the action into it. What are those areas in life that you can improve on so that you can actually, go in the direction of the goals that you want to be in? For the next 67 days, I am challenging you for this entire challenge of the 67 steps to be actively looking for ways to be more aware of what qualifies you for success, for making experiments so that you can be changing yourself in the correct direction and not just being stuck in a rut all the time. And then third, now, to be humble in action, not just humble in voice or lip service. Thank you everybody for watching this video. I hope that with the next videos that are in this series, I'm going to do this series over and over and over again, because I'm always going to learn something new and be able to give something back. And I'll always be able to talk about different stories in my own life for how I might have not been humble, or something that I have learned along the way. And because this is like a habits formation thing, this is something that you can always use for the rest of your life. It takes 66 days to form a habit, but it takes about 18 months for it to be a solid thing for the rest of your life. And so I challenge you to be thinking about how you can use these things and hopefully be able to also take it on for the next 18 months and really be able to dramatically shift the direction of where you are heading in your goals. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments down below. If you would like to use the comments down below to answer the questions, that's also awesome. And for everyone who's made it to the end of the videos, I always offer my magazine, and as time goes on, I will always have new issues coming out. So please go to dreamcatchersecrets.com and get a hold of my magazine, digital download for free, and you'll be able to read my entire story of me going through and building Yumelixir for the year and my experience on that, and some of the stuff that maybe you want to learn if you want to learn how to do a business. Otherwise, if you're just here for kawaii fashion, I have tons of photos throughout the entire magazine to give you inspiration on poses and locations and outfits and color schemes and all that kind of stuff, if that's just something that you like collecting or looking at for reference for photography or anything like that. So thank you guys so much. I will see you on the next video.